Hey Michael, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk about your delivery, talk about your motion, and kind of break it down in frame by frame and at a couple key spots for you. Basically you're a tall kid, big kid. You got to make sure that we're maximizing our body, maximizing our height and our legs, and you have a good sort of feel for everything. A good foundation to work off of. Now it's just a matter of a couple different timings, a couple different setups, and just making sure that you're staying a little bit taller over the backside and just generate a little more power with your hips, because you're really dynamic. I like it. You're getting down the hill, you're exploding down the hill. You got good explosiveness in that lower body, and everything's working real well. Now it's just a matter of putting a few things together, and we'll go and talk about that through your delivery here for a little bit. Alright, so we'll go back and from the start. Alright, so basically what we look for from the windup is not a whole lot of movement side to side. Alright, you got your eyes locked in on that catcher, so everything's going good initially. Alright, now you're getting up, alright, through your motion, and basically that leg kick, once that leg kick gets up, we want to get, that's where basically our mechanics start. We want to see our hands break, our hips going, and this is where you're getting into a little bit of trouble here. Alright, basically we want this initial start of your delivery will dictate a lot of how you're going to finish it. It causes a lot of problems down the hill, so we got to make sure that everything's starting off nice and correct, nice and solid, nice and efficient. We basically want efficiency, we want limited movements, and we want timing. Alright, so the biggest thing that you got here is you can see hands move backwards as that leg comes up. Alright, we want these hands just to be locked in place, somewhere around your stomach, somewhere around your chest, where they're not moving. The more those hands move, the harder it is to time. Alright, so just get to a point where you're not moving your hands back as that leg gets coming. Alright, you're doing a good job at staying over your back foot through leg lift. Alright, now we got to make sure that we don't get flexion with our knee. Alright, we don't want to see this right here. Alright, you're doing a good job at getting closed off, but we want to try to keep that leg perpendicular to the ground through that whole leg lift. Alright, that just creates timing issues, so we just want to get that more sort of neutral. Alright, the leg height is fine, but we just the more movement here, the harder it is to time, the more inconsistencies there's going to be. And basically what this does, we'll draw a line over your head, is you can see you drop out of that circle before you get going forward. Alright, and you basically have this big postural change back here. You're over your back foot, whereas, once we drop down, once we change our posture, we lose power. Alright, we want to gain as much power as we can by keeping our hips closed as long as we can. Alright, so basically what we need to try to have you do is try to stay a little bit taller. So we want to try to have this head, follow this straight line down the mound, so then you get this just a little more efficient, because you can see, as you come through, that head kind of pops back up towards that line. So we got to just eliminate that wasted movement. You don't get power from flexion of the knee, you get power from the hips. Alright, so that's just the one thing, is just stay taller, don't flex that knee down there. Alright, now what we need is, because this heel kicks back towards your towards first base again, now what that does is that causes your hips not to lead. So you kind of drop down and then get going forward with your hips. So now here's everything going. Now your hands break right here. Alright, but we need those hands to break once this foot starts down. Alright, so we need the hands to break, right here. Alright, and they don't break because they're going backwards, because they're up a little bit, and they're just doing too much movement. So we got to make sure that we're breaking our hands as that leg gets going, as those hips get going. Alright, and that'll help you out get a little bit more consistent. So now what we want to see is our hands are already broke. Alright, and you're doing pretty good at leading with your hips. We got to make sure that we're not rotating that hip too much by letting that foot kick out as much as it is. Try to, again, just keep that neutral hip and just try to let that hip lead down the mound, you know, your foot would probably still be about right here. We don't ever want to try to see that bottom of your shoe to that catcher. All right, you know, it's just right here, you know, maybe right here. Then it starts to swing out. All right, but basically all this start, that the late hands, you know, the foot kicking out, the postural change, the bend down, what that all is going to lead to is that your foot strike right here, you're going to get everything out over that front foot a little bit. All right, you can see your arm is late. It's broke late, so it's going to be late. You know, at foot strike, we want to try to see that elbow a little bit more shoulder height, somewhere here to somewhere, you know, within here. All right, so that arm's just late, and it's going to have to drag through. You see how that elbow is down through release, which puts some strain right there. All right, and then it has to go uphill and then forward. All right, so it's following, you know, this path here, whereas we want to try to get it to a point where we're up a little bit higher at foot strike. So maybe now it's here, you know, and then it's you know, more in a straight line out front. So now we're not getting that. Now we're not fighting that hill. You know, now we're not fighting the mound throwing uphill. We got to use that mound to throw downhill. So you're just late. You're not able to get up on top of that ball and get that angle going. All right. Front side wise, you're doing pretty good at keeping that glove out over that front foot, rotating your body towards your glove. You know, now I was talking about getting out in front, getting out early. So right here you can see your weight kind of shifting out over your front hip. All right, and how we can tell that is by this foot is going to start popping off the ground. So now you're throwing with one foot and trying to drive the baseball. All right, just if you think about punching somebody, you know, you're going to punch somebody with 2 feet on the ground, driving through that back leg, or you're going to want to hit somebody with 1 foot, you know, just using your arm. So you can't use your legs when you got 1 foot on the ground. All right, so what we need to try to do is get you to a point where that foot's still on the ground and you're flexing that knee back to create more of an angle. We want that head, we want that chest down over that front foot out here. All right, we want both feet on the ground. You know, you're going to be releasing out here. That's going to be another 6 to 8 inches. That's going to be more angle. That's going to be more velocity. It's going to get on the hitters a lot quicker. So you just got to make sure you're staying through those back legs. And like I said before, you know, you're dynamic. You got a lot working in the hips. You know, you got a good sense of torque. We just got to make sure that you're staying farther back through your release, rotating more over this back side, so you can get that full use of that torque, because your hips are starting to go forward before your shoulders, but that back foot's coming up off the ground, so now everything's lost in this lower body. We've got to try to maximize everything more. All right, so get that foot on the ground, finish down over that front foot. You know, even when you're playing catch, just really work on it. Keep that back foot on the ground, out over that front foot. All right, and that you'll just be able to use that body a lot more, because you got a good sense of everything working. You know, now it's just a matter of timing back here initially for you. Initially is going to be huge. Get that arm break, get those hands breaking earlier so you can get up on top of that ball, drive it downhill, use that height, and that's going to get you a lot more power. So hopefully you're able to kind of see a few things and work on some things this summer, but just, you know, don't dip down, because you can see how it leads to getting out over that front foot, or getting your weight out early and throwing from that front foot instead of staying in that back leg. We basically want hips to stay as close as long as we can and keep our weight over our back hip as long as we can through your release to get all that power and everything. So thanks for making out to camp. Hopefully you had a great time and had a great season this year, and look forward to seeing you again with ABC.